lesson 9-3, we will be representing linear functions using function tables and graphs. So function tables kind of does what we did yesterday in 9-2. So now we're going to be going to the next step, and we're going to start to graph these linear functions. First of all, the word linear means straight. So we're talking about a straight line. So if we had a graph, we're either going to go straight this way or straight this way, or it could be directly straight across. So this is what we're referring to when we're saying linear functions. The black line would be decreasing, the blue line would be increasing, and the green line would be just constant, or no slope sort of thing. So looking at the first one, we kind of have a lot to fill out here, but we don't have as many examples for today's lesson. So during a clearance sale, a music store is selling CDs for $3 and tapes for $1. Graph the function 3x plus y equals 6 to find how many CDs and tapes Bill can buy with $6. So the first thing we need to do, when you're given an equation like this is a function. Remember, yesterday we talked about f of x equals y. So whenever you see y, that's your f of x. So we need to solve for y. So the very first thing, solve the equation in terms of y. All right. So I'm going to extend this. It's 3x plus y equals 6. So we have 3x plus y equals 6. So in order to get this over there, we have to subtract 3x on both sides. So now this is 0, and we get y equals negative 3x plus 6. Now what does that tell us already? This is our coefficient, and our coefficient is also our common difference, remember, from sequences. Now look at it, it's a negative 3. Okay, so that means our sequence is going to be going down by 3 for each term. Alright, so that kind of gives some clues and hints there. So it says subtract 3x from each side, so y equals negative 3x plus 6. Choose values for x and create a table. So here's your function table. We have 0, 1, 2. It would always be good to get a negative number in there too, but for the sake of this, let's just get started. We have 0 plus 6. Alright, so this is going to be 0, and we're having 6 there. Let's go negative 3 times 1 plus 6. Well, we're going to end up with 3, because what's going to happen? We're going down by 3. So I don't even have to do the next one, but I know the answer is going to be 0, because going down by 3, that's my coefficient is negative 3. So let's go ahead and do it anyways. We have this here. So we're going to have negative 6 plus 6 is 0. Now what we need to do is take it over to the next level. We're going to graph. So if I have 0, 6, remember it's always x. Sorry about that. It's always x comma y. So we're going to have x comma y, and your x is right here, your y is right here. So you're always x across, y to the sky. So we have 0, 6. So 0 on the x, 6 on the y is going to be right here. And then we're going 1, 3. So 1 up 3. And then we're going 2, 0. So 1, 2, 0 is right here. Okay, and then I can use maybe a line tool here to draw a line through those points. So that way we have a nice straight linear line. Okay, now notice here, if we were going to figure out what is the slope, m equals negative 3. Okay, we know that because it's going down 1, 2, 3, and it's going to run 1. So that's a negative 3. That's a positive 1, and negative 3 over 1 is negative 3. So when I was talking before about the coefficient, all right, the coefficient is also your common difference, and the common difference and coefficient are also your slope. So all these things are tying together here. All right, so today we're doing tables and graphs. If you don't prefer to do these type of XY tables, simply just do an X line, Y, and if you want to do this stuff, with a calculator or in your head, that's fine with me. Okay, but try to in the future use a negative 1, 0, 1, and 2 value. So that way you have 4 points, you have at least one negative point along with 3 positives. You always like to include 0 because it's an easier one. If you have fractions included, use compatible numbers. Like if I had 1/2 x, I would want to use all even numbers because 1/2 times 2 is 1, 1/2 times 6 is 3, and so on. So you want to use and pick numbers that are going to work well. All right, so this is kind of the XY table I was referring to there. First things first, we need to get this function solved for y, because remember f of x equals y, so we need to solve it for y. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to go down to the bottom of the screen here so we can work some of this stuff out. So we have 2x plus y equals 4, so let's go with 2x plus y equals 4. We need to subtract the 2x from both sides to get y by itself. This is 0. We get y equals negative 2x plus 4. All right, what do we see? I see a negative coefficient, so that tells us right now what our graph is going to start to look like. Okay, we're going to have a decreasing graph. All right, so you know that right now. That's kind of a self-check for yourself. You see a negative coefficient. I know all these y values are going to go down by 2 as long as I'm going up by 1 in the x value. So again, I'm going to go with negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. And let's just go ahead and plug those numbers in. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2, plus 4 is 6. 0 is 0 plus 4 is 4. And what's happening? We're going down by 2. As these increase by 1, these are going to decrease by 2. So I know that the next number is going to be a 2 and a 0 because I'm going to go minus 2, minus 2. All right, so it's pretty simple to fill out this XY table. Now we need to go ahead and graph x comma y. Okay, again, x is across, y is to the sky. So let's go negative 1, 6. It's negative 1x, 6y. We're going to be right in there. Okay, 0, 4 is going to be right in there. 1, 2 is right here. And 2, 0 is going to be right there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my line tool. And we'll draw this line in. So we have our graph. Okay, now did it match what we predicted? Remember, we predicted there to be a negative slope. Well, we do have a negative slope, remember, because it's down 1, 2 to the right 1. So we have negative 2, 1, and negative 2 over 1 is negative 2. Okay, and there's your coefficient or your common difference or your slope, whatever you're looking for. All right, so what are you expected to do for homework? Well, you're expected to fill in these graphs or these tables, and then you're supposed to graph it. You don't have to actually label the slope because technically we're not quite there yet in our lessons. I know that you've done this before though, so I am trying to tie to that lesson and to that skill. All right, but you don't have to actually do it for your homework tonight. So you are going to have a little bit of work. I do suggest you do all your homework on graph or grid paper. Just do it all on graph paper. You can do your equations and solving those. You can make your tables, and you can do your graphs all on the same piece of paper. Just use front and back grid paper. You may need more than one piece. All right. Also, when choosing your values, make sure that you're including a negative 1 or a negative 2. Just try to choose at least one negative value so I can see something over here on this side of the graph. Okay, so the value of y is 1 less than the corresponding value of x. So that's what this is saying here. So the value of y is 1 less than the corresponding value of x. So 0, and we have negative 1. 1, we have 0. 2, we have 1. 3, we have 2. Okay, so it's always 1 less, and that's what this function is representing. And what that looks like is right over here. Okay, so it's not going through the origin, so we would say that this is not proportional. All right, if we're remembering back to our lessons of proportionality, remember proportional meaning equal. All right, so the ratios are not the same. But this is increasing by 1 because you know the coefficient is 1 right now. These are all going up by plus 1. Okay, plus 1. So the slope is going to be 1, but you know where the y-intercept is right here at negative 1 because we know quite a bit about these equations already. All right, so here we have the graph or the table. Choose some values for x and make a function table. So I see here that I did not include a negative 1. So right here I'm going to go ahead and change this to a negative 1 because I would like to see a negative in these problems. So here we're going to do 0 minus 3, and that's going to be negative 3, and so I'm going to have 0 comma negative 3. So again, what I'm trying to do here is just show you a variety of these tables to see maybe which ones you like to use. So this is going to be 1 minus 3. We're going to get negative 2. We're going to have 1 comma negative 2. Remember that always our ordered pairs are listed inside of parentheses. So here we're 2 minus 3. That's a negative 1. And so we're going to have 2, negative 1. All right, notice here the coefficient was 1. So what's happening to all these is going up by 1. All right, so now this one's going to be thrown off because we put it out of order. So we have negative 1 minus 3. That's a negative 4. So we're going to have negative 1 and negative 4. All right, so in the grand scheme of things, we should have put the negative 1 up here. All right, but when graphing, it really doesn't make a big difference where we do it. So now we're going to graph all the ordered pairs. So we have 0, negative 3, which is right down here. We have 1, negative 2. We have 2, negative 1. And then here we did negative 1, negative 4. So we're actually going to go here and down, which is over there. So now we did get a value on this left-hand side, which is good. I'd kind of like to see that. All right, so there's your slope. We know that the slope is 1 because these are all going up by 1. I know that this one's not going up by 1, but remember we changed the order over here. If this would have been a 3, it would have gone up by 1. So it is important how your terms are listed in figuring out the correct answers there. All right, for the last example, which line graph below best represents the table of values for the ordered pairs? Okay, this is great. Good practice for us for MCAs and NWAs. So these are going up by 2. All right, and I noticed that these are going up by 1. So the common difference or the coefficient would be like 2x. Okay, and now if I plug this 0 in, 2 times 0 is 0, and then we're getting 1 though. So I know that I need to add 1. Now let's check this. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So this is the function right here. Now you didn't necessarily have to do that and figure that out. What you did need to do is look over here and just figure out which one represents this table, this set of data. We have 0, 1. Okay, 0, 1. Well, that wouldn't be right there, so it's not A. Okay, you also know, because we've learned about y equals mx plus b, you know that 1 is the y-intercept. So you also know that, okay, this can't work. You know that C can't work because it doesn't go through at 1. This one goes through at 1, this one goes through at 1. All right, so we need to figure out, is it going to be B or D? All right, so let's check it out. 1, comma 3, so we'd be at 1, 1, 2, and it looks like it's crossing right there, which is about a 2. So we'll go 1, 1, 2, 3. This is 1, comma 3 right there. So the correct answer would be D. All right, so you didn't necessarily need this. However, it was easy for us to get rid of A and C if you do know your slope and maybe your y-intercept, because we eliminated those two based on y-intercepts. But you don't need this, really. All you need to do is know how to do your ordered pairs. Okay, and remember that's always x comma y, with x being first and x across, y to the sky, and just figuring out which graph represents the actual data that we're given. All right, that's our last example. So if you have any questions with the homework, check your step-by-step homework helper. You may also watch some tutorials that I've loaded onto Moodle as well.